Want to stop juggling spreadsheets, calendars, and a dozen apps just to run your rentals? Lodgify makes it easy. It's an all-in-one toolkit for hosts. Build a direct booking website, automate guest messaging, and keep all your channels in sync. Running your rental business your way has never been simpler. And for Good Morning Hospitality listeners, you can get 20% off any yearly plan with code GMH20. Just check the link in the show notes to get started today.
Welcome to Good Morning Outdoors, your one-stop shop for the latest news, noteworthy trends, and thought-provoking discussions across the outdoor hospitality industry. From campgrounds and RV parks to glamping, outdoor resorts, adventure travel, and ecotourism, we'll be discussing all things outdoor travel and hospitality, so join us on Good Morning Outdoors every Thursday, wherever you get your podcasts.
Good morning.
Morning, Alex. How you doing?
Hey, I can't complain. It's Memorial Day week, which is obviously incredibly exciting. The natural, normal, exciting kickoff to our incredible camping season. The weather hasn't been quite cooperative here. Hopefully it's better other places in the country. It's a little rainy, but it's I think the enthusiasm still remains high for Memorial Day, and incredibly excited to head into this week and long weekend and start to the camping season.
Well said. Totally agreed. It's been crazy, busy, but lots of fun stuff happening. So
yeah, why don't, before we dive into, we've got a lot of great stories today, from surveys and trends, some new products to talk about, and just a whole bunch of news before we head into the weekend. Can you tell people just a little bit about what you've been up to the last couple of days? You took a little bit of a trip that was incredibly exciting, and we've got some photos to share here as well.
Yeah, so I had the good fortune to be invited down to Ferncrest Promised Land in the Poconos. It's in Greentown, Pennsylvania. Had an awesome time meeting with the Ferncrest team. So that's founded by Brian and Joanna Linton, and had the awesome opportunity to meet Brian for the first time in person. And the rest of
always
team.
Nice where you can take the online connections and talking with interviews and great people and actually see the great work that they're doing at their property.
Yeah. Yep. Totally. Beyond that, it was a group of a couple dozen or so, either current franchisees of the Ferncrest franchise system or aspiring franchisees. So I met a lot of people from all over the country that have some exciting businesses and concepts, either opening this season or next season, or they're in the early stages of finding property and developing property. So, it's I figured we could dive into a little bit as to like what Ferncrest is and what they're up to for a couple minutes. And Brian Linton, as I mentioned, is one of the founders. His wife also, Joanna, and so he's got a tremendous following. He's built. I was
going to say, why don't people might know kind of their YouTube channel or their social media presence more than even just them with Finding Promised Land.
Right. And so Finding Promised Land is the YouTube channel and the Instagram. And then there's also Ferncrest, which is Camp Ferncrest on Instagram. So they, a few years back, opened up this, they call it a Campground, which this is one of the reasons I wanted to talk about it, because I think it's such a on point concept for where this industry is at. It's a campground, right? It's camping vibes. It's in some ways kind of no frills, old school camping, but with these awesome, comfortable accommodations in these geodesic domes, also some glamping tents, and they've got some camping cabins in the works that are going to be in that location soon. So it's camping vibes. It's old school camping, but elevated, more comfortable experience where you don't have to go pitch your own tent or bring your RV. Lots of great processes and systems. And I think probably close to the whole Ferncrest corporate team was there. And I was so impressed. It's just a rock star team. And, Brian and Joanna have built a few teams. They're longtime entrepreneurs and have done some really cool stuff. So they're bringing all that expertise to the table. And it was just such an inspiring and energizing experience to see all these people from around the country in different stages of opening a Campground. And just got a glimpse into, a really professionally run operation. It's the perfect mix of like really dialed in systems and processes. And, but that's honestly is like, I say that, and that I feel like some people hear that and they're like, well, that sounds like a corporate camping experience. And it's not at all, right? It's leading with guest experience. We had the guest experience, from getting the automated booking messages that, I know that they're automated, but they don't feel automated, and it's a personal touch, and it's hospitality through and through. So they really prioritize the guest experience. And honestly, I came away, I started looking at pieces of land because I want to I want to own one of these. I want to open a Ferncrest, and I'm confident that, I know I saw a little bit behind the curtain, and we'll keep those things confidential, but there's some exciting things in the works, and maybe we'll have Brian on the show to talk about some of those exciting things in the next few weeks or so. And it was an awesome experience, unplug and just be in nature. And I think that kind of ties into some of the surveys and stories that we're going to talk about.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think for, people who come from the traditional camping industry, there's a couple of camping franchises and brands that we've talked about over the several weeks on the show, from Campgrounds of America, KOA, Jellystone, and obviously any of our hotel folks who listen to the other episodes and segments of GMH are obviously familiar with all of the hotel brands. There are really not too many, if anybody, doing a franchise on the glamping side. There's, Brian and probably one other in the space that's trying to launch into this. And so, they've done an incredible job just through the media, the branding, what they've been able to build with their first several locations. So really exciting to see kind of the franchise flag space come into the glamping market. I think it's long overdue, and the entire team at Ferncrest is doing a great job kind of moving that forward.
Well said.
As far as I've got a little bit of news coming up as far as a trip I plan to take over this Memorial Day holiday. Obviously, weather permitting here in Ohio, we've had power outages and internet outages over the last couple of days. So as long as I can make it, I'm planning to visit Cuyahoga Valley National Park in Ohio. This is really close to where I grew up. Obviously, it's a great national park, really the only one in Ohio that's within good driving distance. The Lake Erie Waterhead Trail will be great to hike. I may bike. We'll see. We'll see if I drag the equipment up there. They got a great scenic train ride. I think it's a really incredible spot. As we've kind of talked about national parks here, Matt, on the show the last couple of weeks, and I think I got the little bug a little bit to say, hey, like, I haven't been to this property since I was probably a young kid. So it's nice to go back with kind of a different lens and an industry perspective. And I think really to see, I want to get a firsthand glimpse at how the national park is kind of coming out of all of this conversation we've had with Doge and the state of our public lands. We've talked about it. I kind of want to put eyes on it, and should be able to come back next week with some great picks and talk about the experience that I had there. So really looking forward to that, and excited to get a chance to get out in nature over the Memorial Day holiday and really get to one of our great national parks.
Yeah.
So
one of the hidden gems in our country, I would say. I think Ohio can get a bad rap for just being
especially this being
Midwest.
northeast Ohio.
Yeah.
Most people know of Hocking Hills in Southwest Ohio, or I'm sorry, Southeast Ohio, and just great areas like that. But not often you find a great little piece like that. So absolutely. All right, what do you say? I think we've got enough news stories to dive into. We're going to kind of take these one at a time and jam pack this through with a lot of great information right before we all take off and get ready for the holiday. So I wanted to start with a little bit of a trend we've talked about for kind of at surface level for several weeks now. Go RVing put out an article and kind of a survey that they do of membership and how the market looks, talking about wellness tourism and how its popularity continues to grow. Both Go RVing and obviously its parent company RVIA have been monitoring this as kind of a travel trend for years. And really it's something that they kind of coin with personal growth, healing, and mindfulness being, three kind of core areas or key to what is all encompassing in wellness tourism. I put together sort of a list here, Matt, of things that I've seen parks begin to add that I think kind of fall into this lens. So things like spas, gyms, outdoor exercise equipment, hosting activities like yoga, meditation, guided nature walks, mindfulness workshops, from the biggest brands like KOA to small mom and pop type operations. Everybody seems to be adding this part to this day as far as how can we add relaxation? How can we add these type of things into the visit? Is this something that you're keeping an eye on? Do you think wellness tourism will continue to become more popular? I think this is a really interesting conversation as we see how parks continue to kind of diversify their offering and go from more of a roughing it, rustic tent camping experience to saying, how do we add more relaxation and get families and couples to come and want to partake in the camping experience?
It's a really interesting topic. And honestly, it's something that resonated with me in the last few days in the Poconos at Ferncrest. And, you know, it ties back to even a few weeks ago. I've been really trying to dial up my my Instagram game. And so I've been thinking about things that I can post about, you know, and as you know, our rustic little campground in the Catskills doesn't have anything in the way of amenities. It will eventually, but I turned onto this concept of forest bathing, and not a new concept. And before I was in this industry, I probably would have heard that term and said, okay, that's just like
pie in the sky. Yeah, right.
Go hug a tree. But it's real, right? Like I've researched this, and it ties into kind of the concept of Ferncrest, which is something that I really believe in, and is something that I've followed with my own properties, is that just being outside in nature is an amenity. And there's real data out there that shows how good it is for your health, for your physical health, at a cellular level, for your mental health, to just go spend a couple hours just like, you know, listening to the sounds of the forest and consciously thinking about it, right? Go for a leisurely nature walk for a couple hours, get some exercise, right?
And that's what I loved with some of this list was that so much of it was you don't have to necessarily add an amenity. Right. Yoga, meditation, the nature walks, like that's all free. You know, any campground can add that to their programming or craft their marketing in a way to really drive that home and attract that type of guest.
Right. A lot of people there were talking about, you know, wellness amenities like massages and, you know, cold plunges and hot tubs and some real kind of hard amenities. But, you know, that's all great. I think I try to be weary of like getting into an amenities like arms race. And I think it's just something that's so great for our, you know, our industry and just kind of this return to nature among young people, old people, everybody, diverse, you know, crowd of people that are just looking to get out in nature and do simple things. It's such a digital world, everything with AI, like it's just, I think it just bodes well for like a nice patch of land with some campsites and a beautiful setting. I'm all about it. I think there's good things in store for years and years to come for people that are in that position.
And look, if I'm going to relax and have more of a wellness type of weekend, I probably don't want to see too many people. I probably want to, you know, really take the opportunity to unplug and meditate. And as you said, forest bathe and just be outside and be in the sunlight and enjoy, you know, being alone out in nature. So I think, you know, there are plenty of ways to do this where you're not adding labor, not adding expense, being able to market to a whole other consumer. And I think it's really great that Go RVing, with their incredible marketing engine, marketing arm, all of the budget that RVIA and Go RVing have to really market to get people into the RV lifestyle, that they're focusing on this type of consumer as well and really trying to speak to this type of person who wants to kind of reconnect and get back out in nature. So I think that's really, really great.
Well said.
Our next story is a little bit of a kind of another survey with kind of two unlikely partners. I didn't really expect this survey to come out, looking at Campspot, who's obviously been really great with a lot of the data that they've been putting out with OHI and the data dig and being really a leader in the data that's being collected in this industry. They partnered with Pilot, the kind of gas station and convenience chain, to look at what they call their 2025 summer trend outlook, the pop-up escape. I really took a couple of pieces of data from this. Obviously, Pilot trying to really study and understand what is the RV consumer going to do with gas in travel this year to kind of better understand and see how their market looks. The kind of two things that I came away from this was around people taking shorter trips, which I think is kind of been a little bit of a trend the last couple of years, as people are not exactly taking the incredibly long all-American summer road trip cross country. People are looking at stays less than 200 miles from home. And just as I mentioned, a national park in the intro, this is yet again another focus for people traveling, looking at staying close to national parks, visiting small, kind of off the beaten path towns, really seeing places that are less crowded and more back to nature. So I think really a continuation and a trend of what we just talked about. Matt, what did this survey really tell you? And do you kind of agree with this assessment that this is how people are starting to travel as gas prices remain kind of fairly high, but stable, obviously not as high as what they were, and people really focusing on shorter trips and back to nature?
Yeah, before we dive in, whenever I see these surveys, I always try to dive into the methodology of the survey. Right. And I'm not trying to take anything away from this survey. I think it's great data, but you see a lot of big numbers of favoring camping, and it's just important to note that this is a survey of Campspot users. So these it's surveying campers. So obviously there's a trend towards people liking camping and favoring camping. That being said, I think there's a lot of good data here, right? 90% of travelers planning 1 to 3 night getaways within driving distance. Over 50% favoring short, affordable trips. That was a recurring theme here of keeping costs low. We've been talking for weeks and really since we started this show about some economic uncertainty. We're still there. So value and affordability in shopping for trips is evident and has been, and I think will continue to be for the foreseeable future. They called out a $500 sweet spot. 76% plan to spend less than $500 and 50% traveling less than 200 miles. And I think that, coming from the investment world and commercial real estate, it just points to like the classic real estate cliche of location, location, location. And, we see that when we talk to investors and study the landscape, right? That's the first box you got to check is there demand built in? It seems like demand is change, right? There's some change here, but it's also the same, right? It's pick a top 50 metro, pick a location that has a few million people within a few hours drive time radius, and you should be good. Factor in some outdoor recreation demand, be close to some hiking trails, some body of water. It's the classic, right? I mean, all these campgrounds were built in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. A lot of them already had that, so it's no new novel concept, but I think it's a return to like how people behaved and traveled and made choices, perhaps in those years when a lot of these businesses were founded and built. So, it's interesting. It's encouraging. One that I can speak to personally is 78% of people report feeling less stressed within 2 nights of camping. Definitely, just like even
that might be one of the greatest indicators for our industry. Is some people leave for vacation in traditional sense and actually come back more stressed. I don't know that I've ever been to a campground and come back more stressed than when I left.
100%. Yeah, get some forest bathing in and you got a different perspective. So I think more data from a different source that
kind of confirms that.
Yeah, corroborates everything we're talking about.
Yeah, and kind of speaking of, we just kind of touched on demand, which obviously impacts parks. Our next story talks about something else that could be potentially impactful for parks. This is not necessarily a new kind of announcement or regulation being put on campgrounds, but I think it's kind of worth touching about coming out of this webinar series that was put on by the CCRVA. Man, these big acronyms are trip you up, about the GMI requirements, the ground monitoring impact devices. This is something that I think parks should, one, be mindful of. There have been, if anybody in the industry knows of Wade Elliott, he's somebody who's been on the OHI kind of electrical code committee and somebody who's been really watching this and has been well known in the camping industry for a long time. He had put out some kind of reporting or another kind of article in Woodall's around how these requirements may not actually be that impactful for campgrounds. Really what we're talking about is having the ground wire monitoring that's built into your pedestals, built into your electric system, and that new RVs launching in 2025, even as late this year into 2026, will have kind of this technology built into the new RVs. So obviously something that you as a property or a park need to be mindful of, that new RVs coming into your campground are going to have this in place, and that you need to essentially start upgrading or properly maintaining your electrical system in order to prepare for this. So Matt, I think this could be, kind of potentially impactful. You can think of it more of like the, GFCI tester kind of thing with the ground wire. How do you see this, as we've kind of talked about regulations and kind of DOGE and, sort of wanting to remove regulations or remove things? This feels like it could potentially be kind of a way to force a lot of older parks with older electrical infrastructure to really be forced to upgrade everything if they don't have ground wire kind of built into their electrical system. How do you kind of see this? And do you think this is kind of as big as people are kind of making it out to be?
Yes and no. I mean, reading this, there's a lot of electrical jargon in there.
Yeah.
And I'm not an electrician. I don't pretend to understand.
Yeah, we'd advise for you to study this up, reach out to Wade. He'd be somebody to talk to. We're just really talking about the impact here.
Right. And honestly, to just, maybe I'm a little bit of a simpleton, but I just wanted to cut to the chase. Like, all right, so mean for me as a campground owner, and exactly what it means is that later this year or next year and the years after, there's a risk that people are going to come into your RV park, plug their RV in, and then nothing electrical inside their RV is going to function. Right.
Right.
It's going to read that the RV is going to read that there's not a proper ground on the pedestal, and it's going to say, no, thank you. And nothing, it's not going to receive any electricity. So you're going to have people coming to your office or whatever, calling, texting, and saying the electrical doesn't work. And so you're going to have maintenance requests and unhappy customers. And so basically it means dig into your electrical system, understand, do you have proper ground at your pedestals?
And it's probably worth having an electrician come out to look at this stuff anyways, right? Get somebody who better understands the code. You can show them the code that's being introduced, show what's happening with the new RVs, and say, hey, we obviously want people who upgrade their RVs to be able to stay here. Right. Are we properly set up for this? And I think it's worth noting that some of these RVs that are being rolled off the line this year are going to have this technology in this. So this is not exactly something that you may be able to wait for next year. This may be something to like start looking at now. Because this could, kind of affect you sooner rather than later if this kind of catches you off guard.
100%.
All right. Our next story here is a little bit more kind of on the fun side, coming out of the electrical stuff that Matt and I both don't know a lot about. This kind of off-grid product, though, I think is incredibly cool and something I definitely wanted to touch on, just as we kind of talk about. I think there's, kind of two segments of RVing that are really gaining a lot of popularity right now, and really just kind of camping in general. And Matt, tell me if you kind of agree or disagree with this. I think the luxury segment, as we've talked about with kind of Ferncrest this morning, with in the wellness trend and making it a more kind of plush, incredibly nice camping experience, still have that back to nature approach, but do it in a more elevated way. And then I think a couple stories we'll touch on here in the latter part of the show really highlight the off-grid overlanding side of the industry, which again, I also think is becoming incredibly popular.
Yeah.
Obviously, we know of, boondocking and the success that people like Harvest Host and, getting out to national parks or places where you can tent camp with not many utilities or hookups. I think it's those two segments of our industry that are really going to be continuing to drive a lot of growth moving forward. And this product from Electric Outdoor, I think, fits right into this. If people are watching this on video, you see the incredibly cool off-grid canopy that they launched. It's obviously got solar panels. This comes from former Thor chief invention officer, is actually the person who helped kind of launch and start and found this company. So obviously somebody who knows RVing well, knows what that type of consumer kind of wants in this off-grid space. And I think that's incredibly cool. They're really marketing this as a kind of self-sustaining canopy, and really trying to position this as like, could this go up against new electric RVs kind of being launched? Obviously less mobile, being that this is a canopy structure versus a mobile RV. But I think this kind of electrification of the way that, people RV and camp with solar panels is going to continue to become more popular. Matt, what did you think of this canopy? What do you think about kind of off-grid camping moving forward? What does this kind of tell you? I just thought this was incredibly cool and wanted to share it this week.
It is very cool. It is. I didn't see a price or anything. I imagine it's not cheap.
Right.
Did you see a price?
I did not, but obviously you can tell even just with those 4 solar panels on the roof. This thing is probably a pretty penny.
Yeah. So I love it. I love the concept. We've talked about this, that, people of all ages, socioeconomic backgrounds are getting into like hardcore camping and hardcore nature, right? I think it's interesting. It'll tie kind of into our next segment here, but like people are looking for unique experiences. They're looking for something different, whether that's a really cool, unique resort with all the amenities that's maybe not so nature focused, or like I want to like be out in wilderness and, have that camping experience where, there are no amenities. You're bringing your own amenities. You're out there, you're alone. It's total isolation. So there's no right answer, right? They're both doing well, both concepts. There's plenty of demand. It's just finding that differentiation and finding that demand. And I'm all for innovation, right? I mean, we see it with all these different overlanding companies getting investment over the last few years and getting acquired by private equity, and really cool, innovative trailers and pop-up tents. And essentially this is very sophisticated, futuristic kind of pop-up tent, right? Is that how you're seeing it?
Yeah, a little bit. It definitely, it's about 6,000 pounds, this thing. So, I mean, this is a chunky unit for sure with this canopy. The other part of this that I loved was that the EV charging was really built into this canopy. So if you're somebody who has upgraded, bought that Tesla, you're kind of moving into electric vehicles, this is something that kind of can function really all together. Definitely think this is more of that kind of off the beaten path. I mean, with that kind of weight, it's more like a home canopy structure versus something like Pebble or Coast that has, electric RV units that are fully towable, fully movable, can take it on the road. So I think it does serve a different part of the market in that regard, that this would be, more of that permanent base camp, much like people do seasonal camping with an RV. This is probably a unit you're not going to move that often, but I think it's incredibly cool that, look, you can still take this into a really remote part of nature, out into a piece of property, have electric charging for your vehicle at your fingertips, have the solar panels and all of the stuff there. I mean, has the ability to have, all of your water, obviously electric cooktop. Like it can be a real fully sustaining, fully contained unit, which I think is great. And I think, the more that we enable people to kind of travel off the beaten path, not just stay at campgrounds and have to be kind of confined to the interstate system to look at where their next stop is going to be. I think the more kind of people will attract into the camping and kind of off-grid lifestyle.
Yeah.
And just speaking of that, I was going to say, Matt, you have anything else before we
Well,
move
so
to
I thought it was interesting that it's coming in 2025. No,
Yep.
no hard dates or anything. That's the information we've gleaned.
Yep.
They're also marketing to landowners
Mm-hmm.
for this as a short-term rental application. So
Oh, that's cool. That's very
it's
cool.
hospitality implications here.
And how
Hospitality, at
nice
least
that as
partial
the
focus.
landowner, you don't have to, there's no infrastructure needs really. You're buying this unit, you're setting it up. Somebody can come stay in the next couple of days. That's incredible power to be able to deploy to the market super quickly.
Definitely, yeah. We'll stay tuned and update everybody if we hear anything more here.
And speaking of overlanding, let's talk quickly about the Overland Expo West, which happens annually. RV Business always does a great roundup of this. Tony, who I know well, it goes out there. I believe it's usually out around Colorado, which obviously fantastic country for overlanding and off-grid use. There've been some, really cool new inventions, that off-grid boondock style camping that we talked about. People like, like Grand Design and Ember and others always have great overlanding units. And this is obviously a great place for people to see. So many content creators that are focused in this space come do the recap videos. It's a great way to kind of show this off. And I love that there's a dedicated conference for this, right? You get the enthusiasts that come in, not only the manufacturers and dealers who want to add this inventory to their lot, but really just show consumers what the new products are for the next year. Very similar to how, the Detroit Auto Show or other shows that happen in different industries. This is really the crown jewel for the overlanding industry to show off the new products and inventions for the next year. So yeah, Matt, obviously all of the new inventions are great. There's some, a great recap. Would highly encourage you to check out that RV Business article to see the videos, see the new inventions. We obviously don't have all the time to go really into depth there, but as we've just kind of highlighted, what do you think kind of the future holds for off-grid camping and overlanding? And is this something that you're seeing into some of the campgrounds as people kind of begin to take these units out into properties?
Oh, big time. Yeah. I mean, I think we first saw it with really high-end van conversions. All right. And that's kind of you have these overland vehicles, which
Right.
is, you could spend $1 million on some of these overland vehicles. Maybe
it's kind of like a truck camper on
million.
steroids. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
it is,
A
really,
tank.
really cool.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So, I mean, those are cool. Those are like, that's for a select few of very, very wealthy consumers. But it's fun. It's just a fun thing to look at and study, and they make for sexy Instagram reels and all that. But then there's also like the opposite end of the spectrum, right? Overlanding is such a broad term, right? I guess as of next week, I'll be an overlander myself with my new rooftop truck tent. That's not cheap for what it is, but a much more kind of affordable investment. It's basic. It's just a sleeping tent on top of a truck, and got to buy racks for the truck and the tent. And so that being said, I'm hyper focused on digging into this a little bit more than I've had a chance to on the gear side of things, the accessories, right? It's amazing looking at brands like, Jackery or, the power banks,
Hey, don't forget about people even like Dometic with the toilets and stuff.
Exactly,
those
right?
are cool.
And exactly, they make the coolers too, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
So like the cooler style, like drawer, refrigerator. I've been looking at all that kind of stuff, and it's like, okay, like I might be into a set of racks and a rooftop tent for $5,000. I could easily probably spend another $10,000 in just gear, right? A $500 Jackery or $1,000 Jackery, a $500 refrigerator just to keep my beer cold, and so it's interesting, it's fun. So it's back to the prior story, like it's just innovation. There's so much innovation. It's good to see those things become more affordable as there's more innovation. So yeah, maybe we'll do some live on-site stuff with checking out some new gear and doing some gear reviews or
Gear
something.
reviews.
That would be fun. So yeah, it's fun. This is one of the fun parts of the industry where it's definitely impactful on the industry and the consumer. It's all great things for the industry and the consumer, and it's just a fun kind of piece to dive into.
Absolutely. And as we wrap up here today, we'll kind of close with another kind of fun story and give some people some love before the holiday. USA Today put out their annual awards highlighting some different campgrounds, really talking about they have their series 10 best, which obviously they do for a bunch of different industries apart from campgrounds and glamping spots. There's a great list posted. Woodall's has sort of the recap of who all were the award winners. What I saw, Matt, was it's a lot of great familiar names and folks that I'm accustomed to seeing over the last several years. There's probably not too many surprises, particularly on the camping side. I think there's some incredibly cool new folks on the glamping spot side of things, which obviously is a much newer kind of inventory there. But it's people like, Camp Finfo, In Town Campground, and then Jellystone Park and Mill Run has won a bunch before, and then Normandy Farm. So I know well, obviously being a Boston guy, and this is pretty local to the Foxborough market, but some great folks, and I think this really speaks to the power of activating great audiences on social media. These are campgrounds that have a rave fan base and following with. You look at their Instagram or their Facebook page, it's thousands upon thousands of fans and followers. And all of these entrepreneurs have done a great job of activating their camper base and their fan base to really go and vote. It continues to fuel the fire with getting them, even more recognition. I mean, getting the recap in USA Today is incredible. Just as far as the recognition goes and the amount of news stories and subsequent press in local media that gets generated through this is great. Matt, what do you have to say about this? And I know, talk a little bit about Normandy Farms here, because I know you know them well as well.
So before I jump in there, I want to kind of just run through this really quickly and some things of note. Number 10 is Gulf State Park Campground. I think that was really cool to see.
That is
park.
Great.
That's down in Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful coastal campground. You'd go there and if you're from the Northeast or out West or whatever, you'd learn that it's a state park and probably not believe it. Number 9, Flying Flags RV Resort and Campground. We've talked about Highway West vacations, right, on prior episodes. Also, shout out to Jupes. They have Jupes at Flying Flags, so Jupe made an appearance. We'll have some Jupes in a couple weeks and talk more about that at Covered Bridge Campsite. Spacious Skies made it number 8. Minuteman Campground. We've talked a lot about them, and
another great property in the Northeast.
Yep. What else? We have we've talked about Northgate a lot. They're behind Camp Finfo, Texas Hill Country. So shout out to them. Jellystone
in Mill Run, PA is great. Yep. And that park, Randy Hendrickson and their staff do a great job. It's one of the largest Jellystone parks in the system, and they have just an incredible audience of folks who don't really back them. They're a multi-time award winner for sure.
Yep. In Town Campground, they're
Dan and Aaron theme. Mm-hmm.
Big contributors to the industry through Woodall's and just putting a lot of really good content and educational stuff out there. And then that brings us to number 1, Normandy Farms, which if you're in the Northeast or you're planning on being in the Northeast of Massachusetts, you have to go see this place. It's incredible. And it'll be a little bit of a history lesson here. So for any history buffs, might cross into a little bit of a nerd territory, but it's just so fun. I'm not surprised that it's number 1. It should be number 1. It's so high quality. It's family owned. It's spectacular, right? Any campground operator should go and see this place and study this place, because it is a template for success in the RV resort market, but it's also family camping. So I had the chance to visit this place, and it's what, maybe 2 miles from Gillette Stadium. So we'll watch our numbers dwindle when I say this here, but go Pats. You know, it's in Foxborough, Massachusetts, which is kind of a town that you would be surprised to hear that there's a really high end, beautiful RV resort. It's mature trees. It's in a forest. It's, you know, you think about Foxborough, Massachusetts, and it's Route 1 by the stadium. It's commercial, you know, very commercial, strip malls and motels, but this place is spectacular, and it's just tucked right off of Route 1, so it couldn't be more convenient to get to. It's a large swath of acreage, highly amenitized, but honestly, the coolest part of this place is the history, and they have basically a little museum that teaches you about their history, which has inspired me to kind of, it's not going to be as significant, but we've got some cool history in the Catskills. I want to create like a little bit of a history exhibit, and it's inspired by this. So this goes back all the way to the 1700s. Crazy story. So it starts with Francois Daniels. It's the Daniels family that operates this place. Francois Daniels, a Frenchman, was actually on a ship that was captured by a colonial ship, Massachusetts Bay colonial ship. And so he was taken prisoner. He's a prisoner of war, taken to Massachusetts. And just by chance, there was a person that was, I guess, his part of the group who imprisoned him, who spoke French, took a liking to Francois because they could communicate in French. And he through that, building a relationship, he found an opportunity to gain his freedom. He saved up some money. He bought some acreage, which eventually turned into this campground. And so now they expanded the farm. It was chickens and dairy, and had a few different evolutions over the years. And they decided, the Daniels family, probably the 6th or 7th generation of the Daniels family, decided to turn this into an RV resort. And so now it's fascinating. It's amazing. This 9th and 10th generations of the Daniels family all are currently actively involved in the operation of this spectacular
this
RV
might be
resort.
one of the longest kind of owned single family, multi-generation property in the campground industry. I mean, yeah. I don't know that there's anybody that I've heard of, at least with the public story, that's come close to this.
Correct. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
It's incredible.
Going on 300 years is amazing. And it's large, but it's beautiful. They've got glamping. They've got, you go through here and you see the $1 million rigs. When I was there was a $1 million rig towing a car trailer with a Ferrari inside it. And that's not to say that's all who they cater to. Next to a pop-up, Right, exactly. So, beautiful amenities, beautiful facilities, just the best of the best when it comes to the RV resort industry. So encouraging that it's still family owned. I mean, I'm sure they're receiving unsolicited offers,
daily.
Quick back of the napkin, I would put this thing at potentially approaching, might sound crazy to say, but potentially approaching $100 million value. I think it's like 400 sites. It would be, I hope they don't sell it. There's no inclination that they are. I don't want to, it's not news or anything. There's nothing
we're just trying to give them some love here. Yeah.
Yeah. It's such a great legacy that, and the family is so involved. I don't anticipate anyone having the opportunity of buying that. I'm sure they receive all the unsolicited offers you could imagine, but just a really special place. And I think somewhere everybody in the industry should visit if you get the chance. I'm looking at, we just had schedule release, right, for the NFL. So I'm looking at the Patriots schedule and trying to see if I can combine
plan a camping trip in a Gillette Stadium visit.
Exactly. Yeah.
Love it. All right, Matt. I think with that, obviously as we're wrapping up, giving some love to the top campgrounds in our space, but obviously want to give love to all the campgrounds and people in the outdoor hospitality industry. As we know, this weekend is a crazy busy one for a lot of folks. Hope that this is If this is an episode you catch on after this weekend, we totally get it and understand. But yeah, just want to wish everybody a really happy Memorial Day holiday. Obviously, great kickoff to the camping season, but don't want to forget, why we take this holiday and why so many people get the opportunity to travel and get outdoors and reconnect with family and friends. So yeah, with that, just wish everybody a really happy Memorial Day weekend, great weekend to reconnect, and we will see you back here next week for another great show. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Want to stop juggling spreadsheets, calendars, and a dozen apps just to run your rentals? Logify makes it easy. It's an all-in-one toolkit for hosts. Build a direct booking website, automate guest messaging, and keep all your channels in sync. Running your rental business your way has never been simpler. And for Good Morning Hospitality listeners, you can get 20% off any yearly plan with code GMH20. Just check the link in the show notes to get started today.